Hi, my name's Mike. Welcome to NMD 203. This is Maya, so if you haven't got it open yet, open it. Firstly, we just want to talk a little bit about setting up Maya in general and setting up Maya for use in the class. If you're using a Mac and you haven't got a middle button, make sure you change that. You can't use Maya without a 3-button mouse. So just go to the Apple menu, System Preferences, click on Mouse in the System Prefs and assign your middle button or your wheel to button 3-button operation. So before we get started, Maya is a very large program. There's two small things I want to cover. To the top left of Maya, you'll see a drop-down menu. It allows us to configure Maya to suit what we're using it for. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing modeling, so we're going to set it to polygons. Next, there's a lot to take in. It's a lot of buttons and a lot of menus. So what we'll do is we'll hide certain aspects of Maya, certain editors in Maya, and we'll address them later. So for the moment, I'm going to get you to go to the display menu, go to UI elements. We're going to untick shelf, time slider, range slider, and command line. So now we've freed up a bit of screen real estate. So with the menu set on polygons and the menu items we discussed hidden, we're going to talk a little bit about project management. Maya uses a Maya file or a Maya scene file to tie together the various components of an animation project. So typically in a project you'll have models, you'll have objects, you'll have images for texturing, scripts, maybe pieces of video, and various other elements. So first we need to create a Maya project folder. To do that, go to File, go to Project Window, and this is where you create a new project. So click New. I'm going to call this project NMD underscore project 1, and I'm going to give it a naming convention of PR for project. Naming conventions are very important in Maya for the various components that you'll be working on. Now if you look in this window, we've got primary project locations, scenes, templates, images, source images, render data, etc. When you create a new project, Maya creates these subfolders automatically. So click Accept and Maya will actually automatically create your folder structure. I've located that in my Documents folder, and this is the folder that Maya's created. Inside is the subfolders. The most common folder you'll be working with is the Scenes folder. When you go File, Save, or Control S in Maya to save your current project, this is where your scene will get saved. So once you've created your project folder, just save your scene. I'm going to call this one NMD 203 underscore SC for scene and click Save. And up the top, it should show you your current file path. So if I bring my project folder back, inside the scenes folder is my newly created Maya scene file. Now, if you've already got a project folder and you've got a scene and you're working on a different workstation, you've just got to point Maya in the right direction. To do that, go File, Set Project, click the project folder you want to attach to Maya and hit Set. And Maya will know its file path to find that directory. Whilst we're still dealing with the file menu, I'm just going to show you one little saving trick. If you go File, Save Scene, now you'll see this little square in a lot of different windows in Maya, this little square box. This means there's an actual settings window that you can open that relates to that menu item. So in this case, we're going to go File, Save Scene Settings. Maya gives you an incremental save option, and what it does is every time you save, it'll save a new incarnation of the file. So if I set this to 20, every time I save, it'll save 20 separate incarnations of my Maya file. It means if I make a mistake or for some reason Maya gets corrupted, I can go back to a previous version and open that. So by turning incremental save on and hitting save scene, that'll close the window. Maya will then create an incremental save folder. And every time I save, Maya will create a new version, up to 20, and then it'll start overriding them. So let's talk a bit about viewport navigation. So this window where we build our 3D scene is called the viewport. If you hover your cursor over the viewport and tap space, it'll be divided into quad mode, and you can maximize each of the smaller viewports. So if I hover my mouse over the top view, I can hit space, maximize the top view, hit space again, and work between them. As you begin to model in Maya, you'll find that you'll be changing views constantly and going back and forward and back. So just maximize the perspective view. That's this one here in the top right. And this is your 3D view. Now, I'm just going to talk a little about navigating the viewport itself. So if you've got a Mac, hold Option. If you've got a PC, hold Alt. And hold that key down, and I want you to drag your 3 mouse buttons one by one. So if I hold Alt and left mouse drag, if I hold Alt and middle mouse drag, I pan, and if I hold Alt and right mouse drag, I can zoom. This gives me full interaction of 3D space. So between the space bar and the Alt Option key, you'll be able to navigate Maya's 3D environment inside the perspective view. So just moving back to the viewport temporarily, if you notice at the top of your viewport you have this tab called Renderer. I'm just going to get you guys to set this to high quality. It'll give us better feedback of our texturing and coloring and modeling as well. So just going to go ahead and create an object, create polygon primitives cube, and we're going to go and create this interactively. So click drag in the viewport and drag out the cube. Now if your cube looks like this, don't stress, there's an icon at the top of the viewport, a little blue cube, and that tells us whether to display flat shading or wireframe inside the viewport. So now that we have an object in our scene, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 3 main working sub-windows in Maya. Now if you look at the top right of Maya, you'll see these 3 icons. The first one's called the Attribute Editor. This displays all the various attributes of a 3D object. The second one is the Tool window. This affects the tool you're currently working with, not the object, the tool you're currently working with in Maya. And the third one is the Channel Box. And the Channel Box is basically a simplified version of the Attribute Editor. Rather than showing every single attribute of an object, it just shows translate, rotate, scale, and your creation inputs. Now in this case we created a cube, and at the time of creation it had 1 subdivision on each side. I'm just going to up that number. Let's make it 4. Now I've upped the resolution of the cube and added polygons to it. So I'm going to get you to go ahead and create another cube, making sure your render is on high quality in your viewport. This time we're going to create it numerically. So go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Cube, and open the Cube Settings window. If you're using a tool for the first time, it's a good idea to reset it. Now in this case, I'm going to create my divisions to 3. And my size, let's make it 30 by 30 by 30. And click in the viewport. So when dealing with new objects, the first thing you want to do is give the object a name. The second thing you want to do is give the object its own material, its own shader. Maya holds a default Lambert shader which it automatically assigns to every newly created object. So first we'll give these cubes a name. So I'm going to click on my cube, open my channel box, and up the top I'm going to call this Cube 1 Geo. Geo's for geometry. And this is my other cube. Let's call that Cube 2. Cube 2 Geo. Okay, so we've got 2 cubes and they both share the same shader. If you open the attribute editor, you'll notice that you have your shape tab with your subdivisions similar to what's listed in the channel box, but also you'll have the shader that's assigned to the object. Now you'll notice with both of these, both of these, the shader assigned is Lambert 1. Now we need to give these objects their own independent shaders. So to do that, select your object, right click on it, choose Assign New Material, and we're going to use a blend shader. This is a shader type, a shader model. Please do Google it. And let's give the shader a name. I'm going to call this one Red, MAT for material. So if I click off the object and click back on it, I can get back to the shader through the attribute editor. And I can edit the various attributes of that blend shader. So this one here, I've called it red material, so let's make it red. Let's give this cube here its own shader. So at the moment it's still displaying Lambert 1. Assign new material. We'll give it a blend and let's make that blue. So we've got red cube and blue cube. Finally, I want to talk about the basic object manipulation shortcuts. The 4 keys I'm discussing here are Q, W, E, and R. Q is select, so currently I've got an object selected anyway. W is move, E is rotate, and R is scale. Now you'll notice on the left side of Maya in the tool palette, as I hit the shortcuts, I'm moving through the palette. So hitting R to scale, changing views, scaling one axis at a time, using my views to line things up. Spend some time with the tools, the shortcuts we've discussed, have a look at the task, use your imagination, and I'll see you next week.